Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're going deep into the world of IT operations. I'm excited for this one.
Me too. IT operations are really at the heart of so much these days.
They really are. Okay, so for our listeners, we've got some really interesting source material for this deep dive. Excerpts from an IT expert's Q&A and highlights from an interview with an IT operations head. This is going to be good.
It is. We're going to try and equip everyone with some really practical advice and takeaways.
Exactly. Whether you're managing a team or trying to figure out your own career path in this crazy world of IT.
Which can feel like a jungle sometimes.
Totally. Okay, so one of the things that really struck me, and I think this is something everyone in IT deals with, is how much IT operations has become this constant balancing act.
Right. It's not enough to just keep the systems running. You have to be thinking 10 steps ahead.
Totally. And you have to be okay with saying no.
Yes. You can't be afraid to say no.
This IT operations head we were listening to said, "Sometimes no is my most valuable word."
Which is so true. It's easy to get caught up in the pressure of wanting to please everyone and saying yes to every new idea or request.
Oh, yeah.
But you have to be able to prioritize.
Absolutely. You have to think about the bigger picture.
Exactly. Sometimes saying no to a small request now is the best way to prevent a huge problem later on.
Totally. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for disaster down the road.
Yeah.
Speaking of disaster, that actually reminds me of something else our sources talked about, leading through these huge IT transformations that seem to be happening everywhere.
Oh, yeah. This is a big one.
Especially cloud migration, which can be a real beast. But our IT operations head actually managed to migrate their entire company's systems to the cloud without any downtime.
Zero downtime.
Right. That's incredible. It really highlights the level of planning and expertise that goes into these migrations.
Yeah, and that's not even touching on the hidden costs involved in something like that, which actually this technical expert brought up total cost of ownership, or TCO. You can't just look at the upfront costs.
Right. Break down TCO for us. What does that really mean?
Basically, it's about looking at the entire financial picture, not just the initial investment. Like, yeah, cloud storage might seem cheap at first, but then you forget about data transfer fees, maintenance, and all the other hidden costs. It can really add up.
And no one wants to be surprised by hidden costs.
No one. But the technical expert actually had a really cool way of dealing with that. They use a phased approach. So instead of asking for the whole budget at once, they'll start with a smaller chunk, prove its value, and then use that to justify expanding the project.
That makes so much sense. Build trust and demonstrate value along the way. So smart.
Right. It's a really strategic way of approaching budget conversations and getting buy-in from the decision makers.
It's like proving yourself with every step.
Exactly. And speaking of proving yourself, even with the best plans, things can still go wrong.
Oh, for sure. And nobody's perfect, right? This IT operations head actually talked pretty openly about a major outage their team had that was caused by, get this, an untested configuration change.
Oh, no. We've all been there, though, right?
Right. We're all human, even in IT. But what's important is how you recover from those mistakes.
Exactly. And this IT operations head, they had a really solid system in place to deal with these kind of things, a dedicated incident response team, communication protocols. They had it all.
That's so important. Have a plan.
Right. And it wasn't about playing the blame game either. It was about, okay, how do we figure out what happened, why it happened, and how do we make sure it never happens again?
Exactly. Learn from your mistakes.
Exactly. Which actually, I think that leads us nicely into the human side of all of this. Both of our sources today talked about the importance of building and managing really great teams and how that goes way beyond just technical skills.
For sure. You could have a team full of coding geniuses, but if they can't communicate or work together, what's the point?
Exactly. And they both really stress the importance of finding people who are a good fit for the team culture. People who are not only good at what they do, but also eager to learn and collaborate.
Right, like those intangible spark qualities you always hear about. Someone who is fun to work with and brings positive energy to the team.
Exactly. And both of them really emphasize the importance of celebrating wins, both big and small, to boost morale and keep everyone motivated.
Oh, I love that. It's so important to acknowledge and celebrate successes, no matter how small they might seem.
Totally. And of course, professional development opportunities are huge for keeping people engaged, especially in a field like IT that's constantly changing. Providing training opportunities, supporting certifications, those kinds of things can make a big difference.
For sure. Okay, here's something I've always struggled with, that fine line between standardization and flexibility.
Oh, the classic IT dilemma.
Right, because on one hand, you want things standardized for efficiency, security, consistency across the board. But you also need to be able to adapt to the unique needs of different teams and projects.
Exactly. It's a tough balance. But this IT operations head, they had a really interesting approach that I thought was genius.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more.
So they implement standardized core processes, like for things like incident management, the things that need to be handled consistently every time.
That makes sense. You don't want anyone going rogue during a major outage.
Totally. But within that framework, they give individual departments the freedom to define their own approaches for things that are more service-specific.
I like that. It's a great way to balance consistency and flexibility.
Right. It's about empowering your team to be as effective as possible while still maintaining some essential standards. And, it's about fostering innovation.
And speaking of innovation, innovation usually means new projects. And new projects usually need, you guessed it, more budget. So how do these IT leaders make sure they're getting the resources they need to make these amazing, cutting-edge things happen?
Yeah, that's the trick, isn't it? Both of our sources talked about how crucial communication skills are when it comes to things like budget proposals. Like the technical expert we heard from, they actually said their budget presentation is their version of Shark Tank.
I love that.
Yeah.
Be exciting.
Right. They have to be able to sell their vision. They have to convince these executives who might not be as tech savvy why investing in IT is essential for the company's success.
And I'm guessing boring PowerPoint presentations with bullet points aren't going to cut it?
Nope. No death by PowerPoint here. They have to be storytellers. They have to paint a picture of how these investments are going to solve problems and make the company even better in the future.
And I bet they have data to back it all up.
Oh, absolutely. Data is key. They're not just like, trust me, this new software is going to be amazing. They're coming in with hard numbers showing the potential return on investment, the ROI.
Gotta love a good ROI calculation.
For sure. And you know what else I thought was really smart? The IT operations head actually uses this technique called showback. Basically, they demonstrate the value of IT to different departments by showing them how much it would cost to get those same services on the open market.
That's brilliant. It's like, see how much you're saving by having us around? You're welcome.
Exactly. It just highlights the essential role that IT plays in the whole organization. Okay, but let's say they've got their budget, they've built a fantastic team. How do they actually measure success? What are those key metrics they're tracking?
Yeah, what does success actually look like in the fast-paced world of IT?
Well, it all comes down to those KPIs, key performance indicators. But it's not about tracking every single little thing. You can get lost in a sea of data.
Right. You can have too much of a good thing.
Exactly. Both of our sources emphasize that it's about picking the right metrics, the ones that are most relevant to their goals.
Okay, so quality over quantity when it comes to data.
Absolutely. So, for example, if their main goal is to improve system stability and minimize any downtime, they'd focus on metrics like mean time to resolution, MTTR, or service availability.
Okay, so basically MTTR is how quickly you can fix something when it breaks, and service availability is making sure the website's up and running when people need it.
Exactly. You got it. And they set really clear service level agreements, SLAs, based on these metrics. It's about being upfront about expected performance and accountability.
So it's like a performance contract. We guarantee the website will be operational 99.9% of the time.
Precisely. And of course, different systems and services will have different SLAs depending on how critical they are to the whole operation. And here's where things get really cool. They use these automated monitoring tools, but they also recognize the importance of the human touch.
Okay, because no system is perfect.
Exactly. So they might have dashboards showing real-time data and alerting them if anything goes even slightly out of whack. But they're also regularly checking in manually and doing audits, because sometimes you just need a human eye to spot those little things that an algorithm might miss.
Right, like a safeguard, finding the right balance between automation and human oversight.
Absolutely. And all that data they're collecting, it's not just for show. They use it for continuous improvement.
Okay, give me an example. How are they using this data to make things better?
Let's say they're seeing a spike in website traffic every Tuesday afternoon. Now, instead of just throwing more servers at the problem and hoping for the best, they can dig into the data. They can figure out what's really going on, maybe even optimize the website to handle those spikes better.
So proactive instead of reactive. That's clever. They're being smart about it.
Exactly. Using that data to make informed decisions. They can pinpoint bottlenecks, anticipate future needs, really see what's working and what's not.
So it's all about creating a culture
Yeah.
of continuous improvement based on evidence.
I like that.
Data-driven improvement. Okay, we need to switch gears a little bit here and talk about another really important part of IT operations, client management.
Yeah.
Especially with more and more businesses shifting to those software as a service, SaaS models, having good, solid relationships with clients is essential. How are these IT leaders handling this often overlooked aspect of the job?
They both talked about how important it is to treat clients like partners. And that means being upfront and honest, setting realistic expectations, and bringing them along on the journey, especially when things don't go as planned.
Yeah, because let's be real, in IT, things don't always go according to plan.
Yeah.
So being honest, even when you have to deliver bad news, is crucial.
It's essential. People appreciate honesty, and when you've built that trust, they're much more likely to be understanding when those inevitable bumps in the road happen.
It's about taking responsibility and showing that you have a plan to fix it.
Exactly. And both of them talked about the importance of having a clear escalation process. Clients should know exactly who to contact if they have an issue, how quickly they can expect a response, all of that. It just gives them peace of mind.
Absolutely. So speaking of peace of mind, how do these leaders ensure projects stay on track and clients get what they were promised, on time and within budget?
Well, it all starts with really good planning, but not just any kind of planning. The technical expert actually called it planning for things you hope will never happen.
Okay, I like where this is going. Tell me more.
So it's not just about creating a timeline and a budget. It's about thinking about everything that could potentially go wrong. What if a vendor misses a deadline? What if a critical piece of hardware fails? They plan for all of it. They have backup plans for their backup plans.
That's amazing. Always be prepared.
Exactly. They are the ultimate Boy Scouts, and they make sure to bring the client into the loop during the planning stages. Everyone's on the same page about the goals, timelines, budget, everything.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about managing expectations and making sure everyone's starting from the same place.
Exactly. And they actually take that same proactive approach to managing their teams, too. They both talked about how important it is to create a culture of continuous learning and professional development. It's an investment in their people.
Yeah, not just something they have to do, but something they genuinely believe in. So it's not just about those mandatory HR training videos.
No way. They encourage their teams to get certified, attend industry conferences, and take on those challenging assignments that push them outside of their comfort zones.
They want to challenge their teams to grow and learn.
Precisely. They even make time for knowledge sharing within the team, like lunch and learns where team members can share what they're learning.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
So much better than those dry, boring corporate training videos.
Right. And it's a fun way to build camaraderie.
It really is. And it creates such a great learning environment. But let's be real. Even in the best teams, you're going to have some conflict.
Oh, absolutely. It's inevitable.
So how do these IT leaders handle those situations where, personalities clash or priorities are out of alignment?
They both said that ignoring conflict is the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, that never ends well.
No. It's much better to address those issues head on before they snowball into bigger problems.
So creating that environment where people feel comfortable speaking up, even if it means disagreeing with the boss.
Exactly. Having those tough conversations is so important. But they emphasize that it should always be about finding a solution, not about placing blame.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about conflict, but what about building the team in the first place? Hiring in tech is so competitive these days. What are these leaders doing to attract top talent?
Yeah, it's a candidate's market out there.
For sure. They're definitely not just posting a job description online and calling it a day. The technical expert we were listening to said they approach it like inbound marketing.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. Tell me more.
They're going to industry events, they're active in online forums, they're even hosting webinars and workshops to showcase their company culture and the interesting projects they're working on.
Wow, so they're really trying to connect with potential candidates on a deeper level.
Exactly. They're building relationships. And it's not just about attracting talent, it's about developing it. They're both really involved in mentorship programs, partnerships with schools, things like that.
I love that. They're investing in the future of the industry. Okay, so they've attracted these awesome new hires. How do they make sure those new team members can hit the ground running?
Onboarding is key, and they both have really comprehensive onboarding programs.
More than just the standard HR orientation.
Oh, yeah, way more than that. They assign mentors, they do a ton of cross-training and job shadowing.
So they really want to integrate these new hires into the team.
Exactly. Make them feel welcome and supported from day one. Because at the end of the day, a company is only as strong as its people.
So true. This deep dive has been amazing. Before we wrap up, I want to go back to something we touched on earlier about how IT operations is becoming so much more than just a behind-the-scenes function. It's really becoming a key driver of business success.
Absolutely.
So where do you see the biggest opportunities for IT ops to really shine in the next few years?
I think data analytics is going to be huge. We were talking about all the data these teams have access to. They're in a perfect position to use that data to get insights that can inform every part of the business.
Right, like they're not just fixing computers, they're analyzing data and using it to help the company make better decisions.
Exactly. And of course, cybersecurity is only going to become more important. As cyber attacks get more sophisticated, companies are relying on their IT teams to protect them.
It's an incredibly important role.
It really is. And the IT leaders who can adapt to this changing landscape and build teams that are both technically strong and strategic, they're going to be the ones who really thrive.
Absolutely. This has been such an insightful conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your expertise. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to The Deep Dive. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of IT operations. We'll see you next time.